Everything is go.
10, 9,
T-minus 8 seconds. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have ignition and liftoff. The Falcon 9 rocket powers the Dragon spacecraft toward the International Space Station, laden with new research for the multinational crew.
Visual prop is nominal. Vehicle is pitching downrange.
Good morning. I'm Stephanie Shearholtz from NASA's Office of Communications. We're here at Kennedy Space Center this morning following a successful launch at 5:42 a.m. Eastern Time of SpaceX's 15th Commercial Resupply Services mission to the International Space Station. The Dragon is carrying more than 5,900 pounds of supplies and payloads, including critical materials, to directly support some of the hundreds of science and research investigations taking place on the orbiting laboratory. Here to discuss the launch and mission are Kirk Shireman, manager of the International Space Station program at NASA's Johnson Space Center, and Jessica Jensen, director of Dragon Mission Management for SpaceX. I'll hand it over to you, Kirk.
All right, good morning. First off, I'd like to say we're saddened by the events of yesterday, and I wanted to take just a minute to thank the members of the press, of the nation's journalism community that work so diligently to cover everything, and including this nation's space program. So thank you for the hard work and the important work that you do. We had a beautiful morning this morning. I was going to say breathtaking, but maybe awakening might be a better word. Every launch is different. Every launch is different, and this certainly was no exception. I was very happy to be able to witness it, and certainly very excited to have our important cargo on the way up to the International Space Station. Today, NASA and our commercial and international partners work together to accomplish really important work in space, and it's about our future. And I wanted to just make a few points. The work that we're doing really pushes the frontier of human knowledge. We work with international, as I said, and commercial partners developing spacecraft systems, technologies such as artificial intelligence, experiments understanding the physics of our planet, all to advance human knowledge. Removing gravity or microgravity is the key really to unlocking all of these things, and we have a unique laboratory, a national laboratory in the International Space Station to explore that. Today, the launch of the Dragon carrying all these payloads up to the International Space Station is an example of that. The work that's done on the International Space Station has touched over 103 countries across the world, so thousands of experiments, and touched 103 different countries around the world. It really does make a benefit to the entire planet. What we do, it really helps us understand what's going on the Earth. So humanity's exploration of the universe really increases our knowledge, but really to understand what's happening on the Earth, sometimes you actually have to get above the Earth and view the Earth. We can use specialized instruments, so like eco-stress on this particular mission will give us new insight into how our planet behaves and the stresses of moisture in our plants. So having that unique perspective and having this platform really helps us understand how we can utilize fully our planet. The International Space Station is a great facility for increasing the economy in low Earth orbit. We have commercial partners, SpaceX. Northrop Grumman has a vehicle on board the International Space Station. Sierra Nevada will be flying cargo in the near future to the International Space Station. SpaceX and Boeing will be flying our crews to the International Space Station here in the near future. All these things increases economic activity, not only in the United States, but really around the world in low Earth orbit, and really paints the way for a vibrant future in space. So we're looking forward to that. And really, no matter what's going on down here in the planet, watching this launch, people are working every day in space. Today, for almost the last 18 years, we've had humans living and working aboard the International Space Station, living in space. A generation of children today don't know a time in their life when there weren't humans living and working in space. In fact, they expect it. So we're very, very happy about what's happened today. We're very, very happy about the work that's going on board the International Space Station. On Monday, the Canadarm2 will grab Dragon as it's hovering close to the International Space Station and berth it to the ISS. That'll be the 15th time that the Canadarm2 has grabbed a SpaceX vehicle. It'll be the 30th time overall that the Canadarm2 has grabbed a free-flying vehicle. So great work today. Congratulations to SpaceX. Congratulations to all the folks who put in the hard work to build that wonderful rocket and spacecraft. And we're really excited aboard the International Space Station to have that vehicle heading our way. Thank you.
Jessica.
Yep. So we had a beautiful launch off Space Launch Complex 40 today. For those of you who saw it, these are my favorite. These pre-sunrise or post-sunset launches give for a spectacular show in the sky. Basically what's happening is it's still dark outside, but you have the sun illuminating the plume as it's in space. And so I like to refer to it as the space jellyfish that's coming down after us. But yeah, these are the best. This was our third mission to date, launching a flight-proven Dragon atop a flight-proven Falcon 9. I can confirm that Dragon is in a good orbit. The solar array is deployed on time. The next event for Dragon is the guidance, navigation, and control bay door opening. When that opens, it exposes the grapple fixture, and that's what the Canadarm will grab onto when it berths with the space station Monday morning at approximately 7 a.m. Eastern Time. After berthing, the astronauts aboard the ISS will unload about 5,900 pounds of crew supplies and payloads. That includes 2 unpressurized payloads that we are flying in the trunk. Dragon will return to Earth after an approximately 1-month stay at the orbiting laboratory. So all around, it's been a successful mission so far. And again, I'd like to thank NASA, the Air Force, the FAA, all of our partners for everything they've done to ensure today's launch is successful.
Thank you. We'll now take some questions first in the room, and then if we have any on the phone, we'll take some on the phone. So Marcia, do you want to get us started?
Yeah, Marcia Dunn, Associated Press for Kirk. I know there's some super caffeinated coffee going up, and I heard this morning wasabi mustard. What other, do you have any other grocery list items that are of particular note, and how important is it to try to get the astronauts up there to make it more like home and feel like they're connected to the planet?
Sure. Yeah, you're probably going to get me in trouble, but we like to keep our astronauts super caffeinated because they work harder then, so that's good. Actually, I actually read an article about the coffee. I didn't know about the coffee until a couple of days ago, and then I called up and said I would like to try some of the coffee. I actually tried some of the coffee the other day. I did not. I had a 5:30 meeting on Wednesday at 5:30 a.m. So I was up hours before that, and I enjoyed it. I'll just say that. Anyway, I'm not endorsing any product, but I did enjoy it. We are flying up every time we fly up fresh fruit. So it's a closed environment. It sounds strange, but actually smells. So fresh fruit is fresh food in particular, and things like fruit and vegetables are really, really welcome treats. We're flying up Texas blueberries actually on this flight, among other things, but that's one of the unique things that's going up. We don't tell the crew, but there are some frozen treats that'll be up there as well. So a few ice cream bars. Very few, unfortunately, because most of our frozen space is for science, but we did manage to fly up those. And then you heard about the coffee already, and crews get to select their own preferential food. We have they call them bonus food containers. Food's a huge psychological benefit. When you're living in a closed environment, you basically are eating the same menu. Every 8 or 9 days, the menu repeats, and so having something different is a treat. Very, very important psychologically, and flights like today are really important in keeping our crews happy and healthy. And so again, it's great to have it up there. I know the crew's going to be opening up and eating blueberries, drinking coffee, and eating ice cream, I'm sure, before you know it.
And if they're a little patient, there's a couple new varieties of lettuce going up for veggie as well. Chris?
Chris Gephardt with NASA Spaceflight with one for Kirk and Jessica. For Jessica, you obviously Vic, or you obviously completed the analysis of the thermal panel. Can you talk as much as you can about what went into that analysis, how it was cleared for launch and entry? And for Kirk, can you give us an overview of the science that's coming back on Dragon next month?
Yeah, so for the models for the thermal panel, we checked our models for ascent and return. We ran them yesterday and everything checked out. So, yeah.
And I probably can't give you a complete rundown of those. David Brady, our chief scientist, can give you some. But we are flying a number of payloads that go up. We're doing rodent research on this flight, and samples will come home. We are flying AngioX, which is an experiment about basically about getting angiogenesis in tumor cells and whether or not you could use a methodology to treat cancer. There'll be samples coming home from that experiment. A host of others. Typically, we take samples from our crew members, blood samples and things like that. Those will be coming home. We have a number of experiments that are on board and have been on board for months, and those samples will be coming home. We basically fill up the Dragon on the way home with ambient cargo, but we also fly freezers up basically to fly that cargo home conditioned. So if you would like a full rundown, we can get that to you afterwards.
Yeah, one of the other items is some of the DNA samples from the BEST investigation. Those are coming home too. Jim, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Jim Siegel, Spaceflight Insider. Jessica, I think you mentioned yesterday that, and again today, that this was the second flight for this Dragon capsule. And so I'm curious about what the design life is of these capsules, these Dragons, and is it likely that if it comes back okay, if it comes back intact, that it will be used yet once again?
Yeah, so for the CRS-1 contracts, that's missions through CRS-20, we are flying the Dragon 1 spacecraft. It's the spacecraft you're currently seeing. We are certifying it to fly a maximum of 3 times, and that will meet the manifest through the end of CRS-20. So the plan is to use refurbished Dragons for the rest of the contract. We do have enough that we haven't set exactly which Dragon will fly on which mission, but if this one comes back and everything looks good and we haven't exceeded any of our service lifetime on any of the main components, then we will be able to refly it again.
What's roughly what the turnaround time would be on something like that? I think this one was used about a year ago.
Yeah, I think this one was about 2 years ago. This was July of 2016.
Okay.
So these Dragon 1s are a little bit of longer lead time. As we've improved, though, we've gotten faster, so we should be able to do it in roughly a year. Yep.
Okay, Ken?
Ken Kramer, Space Up Close, Rocket STEM. For Kirk, please. I noticed one of the upcoming Soyuz flights later this year only has two crew members on it, if I'm not mistaken. Can you talk a little bit about why that is? I understand the Russians are cutting back, but did NASA try to get a seat on that flight, and will there be any more that are only 2 flights? I mean, two crew members in the next year or two, because you're going to have less on the U.S. side now, I guess, right, from 4 down to 3. Is that right?
That's a lot of questions.
They're all related.
Yes, I'll see what I can do, see if I answer your question. So the Russians publish have a baseline flight program, and they baseline it every year. So today, they have baselined it for 18, they have not for 19. So your question about will there be other opportunities in 19 where there's only 2 Russians or 2 crew members on board, it's hard to say because they have not baselined their plan. I personally think it's likely, but I can't. It's not definitized yet, so we'll see. The Russians have rights to those. The United States NASA has purchased certain seats. We have our seats. So what the Russians do with their seats is their decision. What they have said is they have another module that they're preparing to launch, which will most likely launch next year sometime, and they're happy to have a reduced crew size up until that time. NASA has taken advantage of that in this interim. As you know, we've had 4 crew members. We basically purchased that seat, their flight opportunities this year. So we've taken advantage of that. Next year, our intention is not to do that. So I think it's quite likely that you'll see 5 people on board rather than 6. But NASA will have its full complement of 3. And as soon as we start flying a commercial crew out of here, on SpaceX and Boeing, we'll be back up to a crew of 4 on the U.S. side of the space station. So there's more than enough work to do, but it really has to do with where we want to spend money, where the United States wants to spend money, and of course the Russians. It's their decision as to how they want to man the station.
Other questions in the room? Emery?
Hi, Emery Kelly with Florida Today. Jessica, any preliminary data or anything you may have gleaned from that second stage experimental burn?
No, not yet. It was a long demonstration coast, so it is still ongoing, I believe.
Any final questions? Okay, great. Thank you all for joining us today to discuss this commercial resupply mission to the International Space Station. Join us again on NASA TV Monday morning at 5:30 a.m. Eastern Time for NASA Television's live coverage of the Dragon's arrival and attachment to the space station. And you can follow along all of the news related to life and science aboard the space station at nasa.gov/station.